Hello and welcome to the Sunday Community Skirmish number 54. My name is Urs, and if you are not aware, this is the weekly tournament series run every Sunday by members of this game's community. As always, if you've ever wanted to participate in this event, you can just go to the official Guns of Icarus online forums, and it's just a sign up away. We're hopping into our first match. We have 3 teams signed up today. And this first match is going to be between Why So Serious and Cake. Why So Serious, a clan you might not be very familiar with. It seems formed primarily from former Holy members. But we'll start out with their team. This first ship, Seriously Firelock, a Spire, piloted by Owie Fox. It is a Lumberjack Spire with a front-facing Artemis. Right side Flamethrower, left side Light Flak, taking a lot of damage right now. Their ally, Sideway Pleasure, which is left side Mercury Field Gun, Lumberjack Heavy Flak, right side Double Hwacha with a rear flare gun. This is your very standard split galleon with the left long range, right side close range. But let's take a little look at their opposing team. Blue team, Cake. First we have the Empress, another Spire, piloted by Inkjet. This is a heavy flak Spire with a front-facing Mercury Field Gun, right side Gatling, left side Mine Launcher, and their ally, the SS Internal Bleeding, piloted by Tiberius III. It is a double Merc Pyramidion with left side Banshee flare guns. So you see all ships in this game going for a very long range kind of sniper style of engagement here. Battle on the Dunes, well known for that. It's a very wide open map. There's not a lot of hard cover that you can take advantage of. So sniping, you know, this is really the one map where double Merc Pyramidion can sort of work, but even so it's a little questionable. I need to change my controls here real quick. There we go. The dual Merc Pyramidion lacks the firepower of a lot of the other longer range builds that have more guns. The Pyramidion, it only has 2 forward-facing guns. You know, you look at something like the Spire. Spire has, you know, best case scenario, you can have 4 guns firing forward, but at a minimum you have 3. Same with the Galleon, same with the Mobula, same with the Junker. So with the Pyramidion, you're giving up that gun. What you do gain is one of the few ships that can have 2 forward-facing Mercs. So the Merc, if you're at extreme long range, it's a little easier to hit with than maybe the Artemis or the Lumberjack. So that's something. Pyramidian's also a smaller target than some of these other ships. You see the Galleon is very large. It's a lot easier to hit. That's one of the reasons the Galleon kind of fell out of favor in some of these longer range fights. Just because it's such a huge target, it's such a large profile, it's very easy to snipe out those heavy weapons on the lower deck. But yeah, dual Merc Pyramidion, not something we see very often. The rest of the ships in this game are fairly standard. We see a lot of Lumberjacks, so I imagine this match is going to come down to who the better shots are. The Lumberjack is one of the more difficult weapons in the game, especially at these longer range engagements. It really requires your gunner skill to be on point, so that's probably where the largest variance will be, since 3 of these ships do have Lumberjacks on them. And for the most part, even though, you know, we have a Galleon, we have 2 Spires, they're actually running very similar weapons here. Yeah, this is what you see on Dunes. People being very cautious. They don't want to charge into the sandstorms in the middle of the map that will damage all your components. So we're just staying at range. Firelock actually taking a lot of damage. You see that dual Merc from the Pyramidion doing a good job stripping the whole armor of the Spire. Spire actually having to pop a little bit of hydrogen rising up to dodge some of those shots. And the Spire is... So this is another weird thing about this match, is typically in these longer range fights, you see a lot of Mobulas, you see some Junkers, you might see a galleon if if the team's feeling a little feisty, but you don't see a lot of spires. Spires, they have very low hull armor, and in these kind of drawn out, long range, kind of you're picking at the opponent over and over, you're chipping away at their armor. Bringing a ship that has a low armor value is a huge liability because, like, every time they knock that armor out and get one shot in at your permahull, you know, that's just another advantage for you. And you see this Firelock is already below half health because of that. Pyramidion likewise sort of has the same problem. It's not the sturdiest of ships. And seriously, Firelock actually losing their hull armor here. We see mercs, we don't see the heavy flak hitting, so they're going to stay alive for the time being. They're actually trying to duck behind this little piece of terrain here to block some of those shots. Like, yeah, the dual mercs of the Pyramidion, they're really doing a nice job here. They are by far the... Ooh! Actually taking down the Spire with that piercing damage. Don't need no explosive on the Eternal Bleeding. But, I mean, what's really coming into play here is just the Merc is so much easier to hit with at these ranges. So they're actually, over time, despite the fact that they don't have a good, like, explosive killing weapon to follow up the Mercury after the hull break, you know, once you just add up enough Mercury volleys, eventually you will kill the other ship, especially if they're not returning enough fire. None of the other ships in this game actually taking an appreciable amount of damage. You see a little bit on the Internal Bleeding, but just the accuracy... Like, we have 3 lumberjacks, but all these balloons are pretty healthy. Nobody's really landing any of those flechette hits. So I don't know, maybe these are some questionable build choices considering who is crewing. You know, I don't know how long these teams had time to practice with. I know Why So Serious, at least, they had to bring in a few subs. You actually see the real Deadpool is gunning on this ship, on this galleon, so... And he has not played in a very long time, so maybe a little... Not so much practice for the red team, at least not as a full unit. Internal Bleeding has actually gotten a little close here, maybe playing with fire a bit, causing the Sideway Pleasure to move forward, try to take a closer position. There's really no way the Sideway Pleasure will be able to catch up with the Pyramidion. The galleon just takes so long to kind of get the forward momentum. It's such a heavy ship, it has so much mass, but maybe they could get close enough to land some more accurate lumberjack shots. But they're choosing not to. They're going to back away. As you see, they're already getting chipped away by that dual Mercury. Meanwhile, these Spires are kind of going at it. Again, we have Merc shots coming in, taking down the whole armor of the Red Spire. You see a lot of those lumberjack shots going wide. Nothing really going into the balloon. Maybe both these teams would have been better suited to bringing double mobulas. Those Mercs, those arts are much easier to hit with. Sideway Pleasure moving forward here. It looks like he's going to try to regroup with his ally using this sandstorm for cover. Red team has decided to take a position in the eastern ribs. Maybe hoping that with some cover advantage, they can turn this in their favor. Just this onslaught of Mercury fire from the Internal Bleeding. They don't really know how to deal with it. And Safely Pleasure, actually, he's taking a... He's stopped here now that they've spotted the blue ship. Going to take some fire. Actually, a couple lumberjack shots going into the Empress. Not enough to take down the balloon. Yeah, a lot of them going wide. Ooh, actually a couple lumberjack shots going into the Empress, taking down their hull. Ooh, that was a heavy flak. Taking out over half the permahull of the Empress. They're kind of in a bad spot here. I mean, the sandstorm's coming in. It's going to reduce the visibility. It's going to make it a lot more difficult for them to land those long-range shots, which they've already been having a lot of trouble with. Shooting through the cloud is many times more difficult, not having any visual, but Yeah, it looks like they will have the opportunity to rebuild their hull armor, and we're going to have another kind of standoff. I wonder if Sideway Pleasure is going to take this opportunity to move closer to his ally, or if he wants to kind of stick it out at his current position. He is out in the open, so if blue team decides to focus him, there's not really anywhere for him to go. There are the occasional dust clouds that pass by that may give him a reprieve if he needs a little more opportunity to rebuild the whole armor, but yeah, just nothing hitting here. So Sideway Pleasure, they're just out in the open. They can't do anything about this. And their guns are getting sniped out. Those mercs are super annoying as on a galleon because they still take out those heavy weapons over and over again, and they take so long to rebuild. That's one of the reasons the galleon really fell out of favor for a long time, is because with the rise of the long-range disabling weapons with the Mercury Field Gun, with the Artemis Rocket Sling, they're just so effective at locking down the galleon forever, never letting them have any weapons. And so they're just going to get slowly chipped away by the mercs. Kerosene. Thankfully, none of their engines have been taken out, so they will be able to keep their forward momentum, letting them get into cover that much sooner, but I feel like we could just make a montage of all these lumberjack shots that are missing, just like 2 or 3 second clips, and loop 100 of them together and make a nice little video to make the old gents teams sad. And you see some optimistic heavy flaks actually coming out those really slow-moving projectiles. Not going to accomplish a whole much if the target's whole armor's up, especially if they miss. But man, do I really dislike this map. Maybe I could just record myself saying, and then some lumberjack shots going wide. And if I could record that in real time and then just kind of play it over and over on loop, and then maybe I could leave and go get a sandwich or something. Blue team's gotten a little close here to red's position in the ribs. Maybe they're having some difficulty finding nice angles to hit them. Since red team, they do have the ribs, they have that cover. It's like, and so that galleon can sort of sidle back and forth as they need hull armor. But the issue is, the moment that they reveal themselves, they're going to be taking a bunch of highly accurate merc shots. So yeah, and you see actually Sideway Pleasure, they duck behind the rib, but then internal bleeding just switches their focus to seriously firelock. So I'm not sure what red team could really do here besides shoot better. Because they've brought these builds that are designed for long range. They've brought these ships that are kind of slow. They can't close the distance very quickly. So they've sort of pigeonholed themselves into this strategy where they have to sit here and try to shoot the enemy team from long range, but not being able to land it. Ooh, Sideway Pleasure actually taking a little too much pleasure in that rib there, doing some damage to his balloon, but they sort of have to work with the builds they have. And this map also, one of the reasons I really dislike this map is that there's not very much terrain. It's very wide open. Red team, they've taken the ribs. That's one of the primary spots that you can kind of hole up, but while you can hole up in this rib area, there's nowhere really to go. There's a lot of distance between here and the next point of cover, which is the Rusty ship, and you actually see blue teams backing away towards this, which leads to this really very common dynamic in competitive matches on this map, where you have one team in the ribs, usually red, and then the other team is over by the Rusty ship, and they're sort of shooting at each other, ducking in between cover, and like they don't really have any incentive to leave the safety of the terrain they've picked. But you know, at the same time, blue team, they do have the lead. And what that means is, you see actually the timer, we're getting towards the end of this match. Each one of these Sunday Community Skirmish matches has a 20-minute time limit. And when that time limit is exceeded, the team that is ahead in score will take the match. So the onus is on red team to make something happen, and you see they're going for it here. It may not be, you know, the odds are not in their favor here, as they're actually just not even halfway to blue team. They've already lost half their perma hull. They're losing their armor again. They're probably going to go down here. But like, that was really their best option, even though it was a bad one. Because if they sit in the ribs, then the time limit will run out and they'll lose. So, you know, ultimately, maybe they are, with these builds, putting a little too much faith in their gunners. Maybe not enough lumberjack drills, but blue team continuing to put the hurt on Sideway Pleasure. Sideway Pleasure losing their whole armor. They've lost an engine, they're losing their guns, they're going down. In 10,000 years, that ship will be dust, as is everything else on this map. Three minutes remaining on the timer, so there's really just, you know, with this 3-point lead for Cake, I don't know what Why So Serious could possibly do at this point. So maybe, you know, maybe they could just take this opportunity to land some nice lumberjack hits, show us that they do know how to gun properly. That's about all they can do at this point. See what our next match is going to be. So the winner of this match will go on to face Clan, and at this point it's looking pretty definitively like that's going to be Cake. That will be an interesting match. Why So Serious is a team, red team here in this match. We have not really seen a lot from them, so maybe it's just a matter of not having as much competitive experience. You know, hopefully in future weeks they can maybe get some more consistent members that they could practice with and really get these builds down, but I imagine we will probably be seeing them in the losers bracket. This is a double elimination tournament, so they won't be eliminated from the event just for losing this Dunes match. We will be seeing them again a little later. Seriously, Firelock taking a lot of damage here, if I can go to the right ship. Actually getting stuck in the sandstorm, taking all their components down with them. I wish we could have an on-screen timer. That would be cool. But we do have less than 1 minute remaining, probably about 30 seconds before time is called for this match. Cake still up 3 points. Sideway Pleasure, they've got a nice position, but even so, just like, they're pretty close to the internal bleeding, and they're still not landing any of those lumberjack shots. But now that they've lost the spot, that's kind of the end of that. Internal bleeding is going to be turning his focus to Firelock. Firelock actually getting some nice hits on the Empress here, taking out their balloon. If they fall onto this, just barely able to kerosene back, and he's actually deploying the drogue chute here, trying to stay in the air before they crash into the Rusty ship. But now internal bleeding is coming in with those double mercs, and just for funsies, gonna get that 4th point. Time has been called by our referee, and Cake will be moving on to the winners finals to play against Clan. So congratulations to them. I feel like that was a really smart decision by them, realizing that maybe these aren't the most accurate gunners in the game, so they decided to bring those mercs, make it a little easier to get consistent hits, and it really paid off in dividends. I feel like that was a really smart, kind of out-of-the-box choice from, it looks like Tiberius III piloting internal bleeding, so nice work to Cake. We'll see them in our next match, and we'll see Why So Serious again